Welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing well out there. I mean, look, man, Orlando Magic, hey, tip of the cap to you guys for going all in. But, man, 4 first-round picks for the third best Grizzly. Desmond Bane's very good. He's very, very good. I don't want to disrespect. I've definitely, I've thought about the Heat, getting into the Desmond Bane game back when the whole Jimmy Butler thing was going. I was like, hey, would they be interested in that? A little flip skis. They obviously had to pick somebody because in this day and age, of picking who you got to pay, the Heat definitely going to face this scenario coming up very, very soon with the Tyler Hero thing. And it's kind of the conundrum they're facing with this whole Kevin Durant thing is they're going to bring in Kevin Durant, give him the big extension, but the Orlando Magic giving up 4 unprotected first-round picks for Desmond Bane. Woo! Just they gave away one their pick this year, which is I think in the teens. They gave away a Suns pick that they had, and then 2 unprotecteds down the road. So I guess you look at it if you're the Suns, you're looking for it. Like, I mean, if you're the Magic, you're looking at it like, hey, we only got like 2 of these picks are going to bite us in the ass, right? With the 2028 and a 2030. So I think everybody's got the same reaction. Like, it kind of feels like Rudy Gobert all over again. It's not that he's not a great player, and it's not that he's not, got the ability to score and plays really hard and, definitely add some more offensive punch that team needs, but you're just sitting there just like, and then it's one of those things that like, and I feel like this happened with Rudy Gobert. Maybe I'm misremembering, but didn't that also happen like right at the start of the summer? That was the whole Windhorst fingers in the air, and I'm just like, man, and that felt like it just ruined the market like right away. And so when you're the Miami Heat and you're sitting here with this Kevin Durant thing or whatever, it's just one of those where I'm just like, I hope this doesn't like absolutely nuke negotiations. Yesterday was an interesting day for old Tobes because I was broadcasting Dirty Boxing 2, Dirty Boxing Championship, and I've done their first couple of cards with Mike Perry and Jason Anik, and I was talking with Jason all day. We were kind of hanging out down in Coral Gables at the hangar before the card started, and I said, he goes, you got the Panthers going tonight? I'm like, yep. And I knew, when the Panthers coughed up game 4, I was sitting here and I was a little nervous because I was like, I was upset, but I was more nervous about the idea when I knew that a possible clincher was going to be on Saturday. So while I was definitely crushed, I would prefer the Panthers be hoisting the trophy already. I was in a way like, well, at least I'm not going to miss them winning the Stanley Cup. And then yesterday I got like one, like I took a little peeky poo because I put most of my contacts except family on Do Not Disturb, but most of my friends I put on Do Not Disturb as the broadcast was going on. But I still had my noties on, and I like looked down and I see the Cats were up 2-0. I'm just like, should I put the game cast on? Like, should I do that? I'm not going to jinx it. I'm not even going to look. But the other thing that happened, and I was joking about this with Jason before we go on the bar, I said, what's going to happen, dude. I said, here's what's going to happen. I said, it's going to be an incredible Cats game, and I said, and Kevin Durant's going to get traded to the Heat, or is going to get traded, just one way or another. And sure as bleep, as I want to say we got to, the main card, and I looked down at my phone, and all I see, because mind you, I'm calling fights in front of me. And the fights, there's not a lot of downtime at Dirty Boxing. Like, one of the things they pride themselves on, and one of the things that makes it awesome calling it just the night flies. It's just fight after fight after. There's no friggin' downtime, right? Like, I think we had, 2 5-minute lulls. And it's just, as far as, fight production and putting on a night, one of the things that sucks the most when you go to cards is you just sit around and nothing happens. And Dirty Boxing, it was just awesome because it's just the night after night. So I don't have any time to look to see what happens outside of a little peeky poo during interviews when Jason goes in the ring, the fight ends, Jason goes in and he's going to interview somebody, Or they're saying like, and the winner is. But I look down and all I see is just Shams, Miami Heat. And I was like, and I see Miami Heat Spurs, and I just see like a list of teams. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So I'm like, I'm really like calling this fight, and I'm thinking to myself in the midst of it, is Kevin Durant going to trade to the Heat? Because I just saw Shams, Durant, Heat with like, and I think Spurs. And I'm like, but I couldn't read the whole tweet. I was sitting there freaking out here for a second, thinking the Miami Heat had finally pulled the trigger and been able to get Kevin Durant. And, you know, I'm just, and so I'm like trying to keep task at hand. And all of a sudden, I'm just thinking to myself, man, what the hell's going on here? So finally, I get to look down and I see, okay, that's not the trade. Didn't happen yet. I didn't miss it. But it's instead the Miami Heat, San Antonio Spurs, and Houston Rockets are Kevin Durant's preferred destinations. I don't know which report happened first, but there was a report that happened earlier in the day. I think it was earlier in the day from The Athletic that had said that his preferred destinations were just Houston and San Antonio. But now Miami's in the mix. Now, when they say preferred destinations, Shams is saying those are the three teams that Durant would commit to signing a long-term extension with. And obviously, I'm sure if the Heat are doing these trade talks, they know because, you know, supposedly Rich Kleiman's in these trade talks. That means that that they know that they're going to be willing to give him a 2-year, I think $122 million extension once he gets here, which of course is, you know, about the amount they bucked to Jimmy Butler, and in fact it's going to go a year later than Jimmy Butler, which is an interesting conundrum. I can understand the fans who were pro Jimmy, and I was a pro pay Jimmy guy. But I will say, while Kevin Durant does miss games, I don't think, even as a guy who was pro giving Jimmy his extension, I think we can all acknowledge, like, Jimmy Butler's game, when the wheels fall off, they're going to fall off hard because this is a man who plays the game hard. Like, he will go out there and he will just, like, grind his way to 17 points, but most of it will be like 4 shots and having to crash into people and willing his way. And so you do wonder with that. And Jimmy does, like, when he gets hurt, as you saw in the playoffs, like, it's a tough recovery for him. And so while Kevin Durant does have lower body stuff that he's going to have to deal with, he's one of got one of the prettiest shots of all time. He's 7 foot tall. There's a grace to his game that Jimmy doesn't have. Now, to be fair to Jimmy, Jimmy has willed his teams very, very far further than Kevin Durant since he's left Golden State. But I understand if we're just talking like, who would you less be scared about paying? Even if you're not talking about, if it didn't come down to, and the Heat never do this, they don't ever pay for pass. They didn't even do it with Dwayne Wade. It is a gamble on who are we going to get that production for that money. And I just think that it feels like less, I think to them it feels like less of a gamble to give it to Kevin Durant than it does to Jimmy Butler. And so that's why I think that question's probably already been answered. But I got to be honest with you. It was funny and a little scary seeing Rich Kleiman put a photo out the day this is all going down. Now, this was before the report came out, but there was I guess Jimmy's doing something with PSG, and so they're in France together, and Rich Kleiman puts a photo out of Jimmy Butler and Kevin Durant together, and you're just like, oh, no. That was my immediate reaction. Like, I'm just like, oh, no, the story. Like, you're going to have him get on the phone and be like, Rich, we're not going to Miami, dude. A lot of people were sitting there, they're like, oh, it's a non-factor. Maybe it is a non-factor, but I'm going to tell you my honest reaction was, well, that's not good. Dude, if you were going to tell me if Kevin Durant's going to spend significant amount of time with one basketball player this offseason, And the last guy, if the Heat were pursuing it, the last guy you would want him being with is Jimmy Butler, going in there and giving all of the dirt on how the Heat were. Now, hey, maybe you know what? Maybe Jimmy Butler gave a lot of high praise to Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, his guys. But when I saw that picture, I was just like, oh God, oh no. So, man, it's a wild one, but to get back to this deal, people are wondering like, well, what does this mean? Why does this leak that Kevin Durant and this preferred destination list? Remember the last time Shams gave out an old preferred destination, he had only one on the list, and that was Damian Lillard. Summer blew up. It has been interesting. There's been a lot of Wolves chatter. Knicks has been kind of cool. There's been some Clippers thrown in there, but it has felt very much like the first team that we heard about was the Spurs. Then there was a lot of reports on, things aren't going so hot with them. Then you have the Rockets. So when this comes out, it does feel a little bit like, hey, you're trying. If we go back to the Jimmy Butler talks, remember, there was some chatter, bringing it back to the Desmond Bane thing in the Grizzlies. There was some chatter that Bane was not Bane, that the Grizzlies were interested in bringing in Jimmy Butler, and then all of a sudden, nope, Jimmy Butler, the only team he wants to go to is Phoenix. Phoenix is the only team. And why? Because they were going to give him the extension. He wouldn't sign, he wasn't going to sign with those other teams, but I don't even think that those teams were interested in giving the extension. The reason why Phoenix was the team the entire time for Jimmy Butler was he knew they had a wink that they were going to give him the extension. And the Warriors weren't his team until the KD thing blew up in their face, and then they all of a sudden were willing to give an extension to Jimmy Butler. So is this a deterrent? Because Kevin Durant's like, hey, I don't want to live in Minnesota. I don't want to live in Toronto. Because people say, oh, Toronto's lurking, Minnesota's lurking. Hey, I don't want to live those places. I want to live in Texas, or I want to live in Miami. He's going to be 37, wants to live out these final years, enjoying his life, I imagine, in some nice weather in a nice town, while also, having a decent basketball situation for himself. So, yeah, maybe when that report comes out, it does shine that somebody was sticking their beak where it don't belong. Is it good for the Miami Heat? Is it bad? I don't know. I mean, look, if you're Durant and this is, you want to talk about, people talk about, what kind of a needle mover is he going to be for the Heat? What kind of a, I think he's going to be very, very positive for the Miami Heat. Would I make the Heat the East favorite right away? No, but weird stuff happens in the playoffs. The Magic are obviously loading up, and people see that window of opportunity that's there. And so I do think there's an element of like, hey, you should probably take this shot if you're a franchise like the Heat. Would I want to give up 2 first-round picks and Jovic and Ware? No, that's too much for me. Am I tolerable to get rid of 1 and 1? Yeah, I think that's a fair deal. I think that's a fair deal. If it came down to Jaquez and one of the bigs and a pick, I think that's a fair deal. I don't think it's a throw the kitchen sink and everything, but I think it's throw some good. I think it's throw some good appliances from the kitchen at Kevin Durant. I think it will do wonders for your best 2 players. You see what it is, and then look, if it doesn't work out, then you could figure out what the future of Tyler Hero is, what the future of Bam Adebayo is. And are we really going to get to a point? Because we're already talking about, I think I can already see Heat fans are like, maybe we should poke around, see what Bam gets, what Tyler gets. I don't think that option's going anywhere if you're the Miami Heat. I think from my standpoint, yeah, your risk here is, are you giving away a future all-star big? Maybe. I think that we saw a lot of good from him, but I do think that there's still levels that Khalil has to go up for sure. I love him. I'm going to be excited if he's still here. If the Heat can get out of this and he's still on the team, grand slam. I don't think in the way I feel like this is going, I don't feel like they're getting Durant without giving up Khalil Ware, but that's just the sense I get of all of this. And based on how the playoffs ended and based on, Spo trusting veterans over youth, I kind of feel like there's talks in that organization that they want to bring in some more adults who can help win. And because they already have the investment in Bam, they got to decide on Tyler Hero. And you got to decide on Tyler Hero. And you got to really know. And I think for Tyler, probably not going to get the extension. I would imagine. Maybe the Durant, if getting Durant, maybe that makes them more engaged in doing that. But I think you want to put Tyler also in the best position going into a potential playoff series. But, people who are sitting here, oh, you're going to be a playing team with Kevin Durant. I don't think so, dude. I think that the Heat are going to be pretty rock solid if they bring in KD with this squad. But definitely am wondering, hey, what does this Desmond Bane thing, is this, does this throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing? Does this screw up the market and where things go? And then also, where do the Grizzlies go? Because one could wonder, is there also another pivot move to Morant-Durant 2025? Is there a chance? Look, Desmond Bane went for 4 first-round picks, and while he has far less baggage and injury concerns than Ja Morant does, he's not as good as Ja Morant. So I don't know what the hell they would expect for Ja Morant. And so if it's 4 first-round picks, I guess the Heat could kiss that dream goodbye. But if Morant could make a stink and, maybe there is that baggage and injury worry and they want to get out. Now, mind you, the Grizzlies do have Jalen Wells. They do have some great young players that they brought along. Edie's going to be hurt. But, so they almost essentially got a gift in being able to decide where to go here with Desmond Bane. But I'm sure many people are monitoring that situation. And they obviously got to pay Jaren Jackson Jr. an exorbitant amount of money. So this was inevitable for them. That's a lot of picks. I can't believe how many they got for that guy. That's crazy. Good for him. Look, good for the Magic going all in. Good for the Grizzlies. I was just like, whoa.